Jason Falinski, do you think a federal royal commission would necessarily mean that there is delay?
No, Trudy, I don't. And look, I respect Pat immensely, but I've got to say that look, this government has had royal commissions into the UN oil for food, institutional child sex abuse, banking and financial services, aged care quality, disability abuse and neglect, robo-debt, veteran suicide. All of those arguably did not need royal commissions. However, this one really does, and it really needs to be at a federal level, because as much as the New South Wales government might have a royal commission, it is the interaction between national security agencies and state law enforcement agencies that I think will be the most interesting question to come out of this, because the two alleged gunmen, one of whom is now dead, left a whole series of breadcrumbs leading up to this attack. So either there was a failure to see those breadcrumbs or a failure to communicate those breadcrumbs, or those two things were done and the New South Wales police didn't act on them. A royal commission by the New South Wales government cannot get to the bottom of that adequately, I think, for all Australians. And I respect Dennis Richardson immensely. I agree with what the federal government is doing here. If there are some immediate holes that we need to plug, we should. But what's already become clear is that the New South Wales police force potentially was not actually enforcing the gun laws that we currently have. We have the New South Wales Parliament sitting at the moment introducing yet more gun laws when, for whatever reason, the ones we have at the moment weren't enforced. So that, I think, for the public is the bigger question.
And Pat, I just wonder at the moment, does it, for an everyday Australian watching onto this, they might be wondering to themselves, why does it seem like the Prime Minister doesn't want to change his mind here? This is a direct call coming from so many within the Jewish community, to say the very least. Is this a matter now that he's painted himself into a rhetorical corner that to agree to one now would mean you'd have to backflip on what he's already said?
I think what the Australian people have seen from the Prime Minister is a determination from the night of this horrific anti-Semitic terrorist attack every day since, a determination to do what needs to be done, to respond in a fast and effective way to the horrific circumstances in which our nation finds ourselves. And that means we've had some 10 meetings of the National Security Committee, a body that can actually make decisions that keep Australians safe. We've had the Cabinet meeting yesterday outlining a range of additional actions that will be taken. We've had all of the legislative responses that we've put forward. We've had the government respond to the Special Envoy for Combating Anti-Semitism's report. All of these things are about acting to do what Australia needs right now. Now, I've seen some of the proposals that are floating around for terms of reference for royal commissions. The one that's being sponsored by the Leader of the Opposition would see years and years of work when actually I know what the Australian people want us to do. They want us to act, and they want their political leaders to act with a level of bipartisanship. They want people to be able to come together and get things done. That's what we were all elected to do, whatever party we come from, and that's what we have the opportunity to do as legislators next year.
Picking up on that, Jason, the Prime Minister, day by day, appearing to be more frustrated with the fact that there hasn't been a consistent bipartisanship over the last week, that there's been a continual line of attack against him. Does the coalition need to be careful in how it calibrates its language?
All community leaders need to be careful in how they calibrate their language, especially after attacks of this nature. That's not just something for the opposition, that's something for everyone involved in our community. I wonder if the Prime Minister I wonder if Scott Morrison was as frustrated when he got blamed for every natural disaster that happened under his watch by Anthony Albanese. I think it's a bit rich for the now Prime Minister to criticise others for undertaking tactics that he deployed when people were simply trying to get urgent care to people who'd been impacted by floods like in Lismore. But, I mean, he has questions to answer. I mean, Trudy, he can't run away just because he demands bipartisanship from answering a question about why ASIO and ACIS were removed from the National Security Cabinet while the head of the Climate Change Authority was elevated to that body. What impact did that have on risk assessment? To call for bipartisanship because people are asking legitimate questions I actually think, is an abrogation of his duty as a leader in the country at this time.
I want to switch gears now. The Prime Minister today also confirmed changes to travel rules for politicians. This was the saga that was engulfing the Parliament before the Bondi attack. Tighter rules now when it comes to family reunions. Is this a concession finally, Pat, that the Prime Minister understands that the rules did not meet community expectations?
Well, the Prime Minister outlined a little while ago that he had sought advice from the Independent Parliamentary Expenses Authority about what might be appropriate to make sure that the system works for members of Parliament, especially those with young families. I'm a MP from Perth. My eldest was only 9 months old when I was first elected. I used some of those supports to make sure that I could do my parenting responsibilities and represent my community. And I appreciate that that's part of the system. But we took the advice from the IPA and we've now reached out to the Remuneration Tribunal. They are the decision maker here. They have the legislative powers to change these rules. We're looking at doing some really practical things like making sure that family reunion travel is only to Canberra, it's only in economy class, and also that where there might be spouses joining ministers and senior office holders for specific events, that's only happening where there's an invitation to the spouse and it's connected to that senior office holder's responsibilities. I think that makes a bit of sense. I think, of course, we'll wait to see what the Remuneration Tribunal say in response to that. But I think this was the right way forward.
Yeah, it seems like these changes not before time. Jason Falinski, Pat Gorman, always appreciate you fronting up. I'm sure Tom Connell sends the same. He does enjoy this panel as much as I do. Thanks so much. Merry Christmas.
You too,
Thanks, Trudy.